Hello, everybody. I hope you all are having a beautiful day to the best of your ability. I just wanted to take a little bit of time to actually talk about something I love and hate. It's bittersweet, and that's The Matrix. Well, the thing I wanted to bring up first and foremost to all those theory hypothesizers and everybody else who had a theory about The Matrix, now that it's years later, the brothers are now sisters, and it came out that The Matrix was actually about a trans story or a trans ideology about how people are living in I'll call it a psychological matrix, set of rules and regulations brought to us since the olden days. I've talked about that oftentimes in my videos. I thought that was interesting. But I like The Matrix also because it opens, well, I like The Matrix for the same reason I hate The Matrix. It opens the door for actual red pill ideology. Now, I don't think a lot of people really paid attention or really understood what's happening when Morpheus offers the red and the blue pill, and it made more sense in the last Matrix Part 4, which actually goes a lot more into the trans ideology and how people go through a life of hell, so to speak, because society rejects them. And I think it's interesting that they use machines instead, because coming up in this day and age in technology, we're coming to the age we're in the age of information, but now we're going into the age of deep technology. They're calling it the singularity, when AI becomes super sentient or something like that, or sentient as human. Well, I brought all that up to say this. The thing about the Matrix is it's a beautiful story. It's a way for you to get into your conscience and start critical thinking, whether it be imagination or real science or anything like that. It gets you thinking. And so it's really cool sci-fi fantasy. So back to the red pill, blue pill. When Morpheus offers Neo the red pill or the blue pill, there's a couple of things that already happened. If you pay attention in the movie, Neo is battling with what I would call depression. He's living basically in a loop. He's going day to day doing the same thing, and it's never exciting and it's boring. Well, there comes a part in the movie where he begins to have delusions and schizo type behavior. And let me explain. He starts talking to his computer. And what I mean is he'll type in a line and wait for the computer to speak back. Now, the thing about this is a lot of people will go, no, he was on the internet and stuff like that. Well, then there's a lot of other precursors. I think they're called, I can't think of the word right, foreshadowing. When Neo when he's speaking to his programmer friends and he goes, I can't tell if I'm awake or not. Can you tell if, oftentimes I can't tell if I'm in a dream or a reality. Sometimes when we're dreaming, and this is an argument for a lot of other different types of topics, when people are dreaming, they can't tell they're in a dream. So people will argue that we're in a dream state or in a conscious dream, or in someone's dream and we don't know it. That's just food for thought, a side topic. Well, the thing is, you go further down the line when Morpheus actually offers Neo the pills. He says, if you take this red pill, we can really see how far this rabbit hole goes. Or if you take the blue pill, you wake up in your bed, this is all over with, and you make up whatever story you wanted to. Now, if you pay attention to the wording, the blue pill actually wakes him up. It wakes him up and the adventure's over. Meaning that if he is dreaming, that means the blue pill is what would wake him up and make him better. It would basically bring him back to his reality. Now, I want to skip to the Matrix 4, Resurrections. If you pay attention to Matrix 4, he was actually an older man, and when he paid attention to himself in the mirror when he was on his medication, the blue pills, we'll call it, for sake of argument, we'll say it's like a psych medication. When he was actually on his blue pill, he could actually see reality for what it was. He was an older man, he was a programmer, and the Matrix was all in his imagination. Now, that goes hand in hand with a lot of schizo type behaviors and things like that. I'm not saying that's what the movie was about. I'm just giving some ideologies. Well, a lot of people theorize that the red pill wakes you up, and then once it wakes you up, you go into like the real world. This is another argument that I like to bring up. I like to argue that they never met the real world and it was all the Matrix and it was all a program. And I'm going to explain to you why I believe that. When Neo woke up into the real world, he was still able to use his powers and stop the Sentinels, which means he still had the power that he had inside of the Matrix. Another thing, when Smith programmed himself into one of the people that was outside of the Matrix, Smith still had the same parameters to go inside of him and operate and be a bad guy and a spy outside of the Matrix. I believe that dude's name was Cyrus or something like that. Now, here's the thing. I believe the Matrix could be a good lesson on mindfulness and or appreciating what you really have. Because if you pay attention, Neo was in the club in the Matrix partying at the beginning with the other guys. Well, then he left the Matrix and then was partying in a cave with Trinity. The same thing he was doing inside the Matrix, with just less technology, and there was more anxious and anxiety. He had to fight for your life at every second in a more detrimental way. Well, then you go even deeper. A lot of the times when he was in the Matrix, he couldn't do certain things because it was in his mind. But then when he freed his mind and he went to the mainframe or the main program, he was able to see all light and see everything for what it was. Now, here's another ideology that a lot of people probably won't accept, but it's going out there, that the Smith was the actual one. Now, I'm going to explain something to you real quick why that makes sense. If the Smith was trying to destroy the Matrix and the one was born inside the Matrix, that would mean ultimately, no matter what they felt or believed in, Smith was the hero because he was trying to annihilate the Matrix. Neo was trying to save the Matrix because he was told if he didn't, all of his friends and family would die. That's basic manipulation and propaganda. That's how what you, and with a machine, or if you give a machine sentience or a program sentience, all you would have to do is sway that program instead of programming that program. It's still all the same ideology. Now, I'm not saying the Smith was a good guy. I'm just saying, in retrospect, the irony of the situation is that Smith technically was trying to do what was best for the humans and destroy the Matrix, even if it meant destroying a couple humans in between, I suppose. Am I saying I agree with any of it? I'm just giving extra ideologies to the Matrix. Now, here's the thing about the Matrix theory and why this is where I don't like the Matrix and why I don't, because of the Matrix 4. And the Matrix 4, to me, is more accurately depicting real life of what was going on. He had schizotype behaviors. He was delusional. He was having a problem dealing with reality, because I'm going to give you another piece of cake for food for thought. If you were to wake up out of a Matrix and you were then in the real world, your whole world would crash. You would have trouble dissociating truth from lies, and you would have trouble understanding what true reality is. And then once you woke up into that real world, you would ultimately always continue further looking for another way out because you just wouldn't trust your surroundings or instincts, you know. And I've been really wanting to talk about the Matrix lately. I saw the Animatrix, wasn't really a big fan, didn't like it actually at all. And once I truly found out what the Matrix is about, I had sympathy towards the trans community. But ultimately, I was not because it was about trans people, but because the Matrix is one of those franchises that can go to infinity. It's a fractal of an idea. And so you could basically do whatever with the Matrix. And so I appreciate how they're trying to get into civil rights for those people. But also, I can see the correlation between the story and how, but to end it there with that storyline, I believe it can go much further. Back to some of the reasons I hate the Matrix was ties into the Matrix 4 is because it causes a lot of delusions. It causes people to become delusional. Every YouTube video says something about the Matrix, red pill, blue pill. A lot of people are red pill ideology, which I'll get into why I'm red pill ideology in a second. But it's completely opposite as to why a lot of people go for red pill because they say they're waking up, and that's counterproductive. That's, if you really pay attention to the dialogue, the blue pill wakes you up. The blue pill was his medicine in part 4. He stopped taking his medicine and regressed and went back to, it reminds me of a movie called Shutter Island. If you've ever seen Shutter Island, you can truly understand how it can be difficult, because a lot of times when dealing with delusions and schizoactive behavior, people like to create fantasy worlds with that type of stuff, like Alice in Wonderland and different stuff like that, when it's not really that simple. They like to imagine people seeing people, and it's not that simple. It's a whole like delusion, like you might be dreaming or sleeping or sitting there in a trance, thinking until you alter reality into believing something else is true. And a lot of times it's hard to deal with because the person who has the ultimate truth is yourself. And so no matter what anybody else tells you, whatever your mind can conjure is what really becomes reality for a lot of people. That's why religion can be extremely dangerous, because people can alter people's reality into a large enough group think to where people believe something is real that it's not. Is there anything wrong with fantasy? Once you get into psychotic behavior, yes, there is something wrong with fantasy when it deludes reality. So, I also like to talk about um, I like to talk about the nature of the universe. I do not like to say what is real or what is not real, because as much as abhor the idea of flat Earth, I have not traveled the entire world. I have not walked around the entire world and or traveled into space to see if it's a globe. So I'm not going to argue with those people. That's just what I believe. I believe it's a globe, and I believe it's following the sun in outer space because of gravity. But I like to hear other people's ideas on what they believe everything is, because then a lot of times what people fail to realize is that learning something completely abstract can help you understand something concrete. And that's what actually a metaphor is. A lot of metaphors and analogies when you compare something to something else. So I could compare Christianity to a Venus flytrap. It's like a beautiful tree you land on for comfort, and then got you. Or I can liken Christianity to a beautiful heavenly dream, something that helps me keep going and gives me food for thought. So if I lost a loved one, I could say, woo was resting in heaven waiting for me, and the all merciful God, who knows that we are just his creation, is waiting for us to let us know that we were always safe, but the devil, who we have been warned about, tried to mindfuck us. Something like that. So, you know, um, also when talking about the universe, I like to think of a fractal in terms of micro and macro, or in terms of time, space time. So, I had an interesting conversation with somebody a while back. Somebody was like, and this makes sense because for a lot of people that play video games, there's options on certain video games, turn-based games, where you can watch the game play out, or you can instantly just automatically calculate the battle and it'll tell you what the results were. So I'll give you an example. To an outside observer, the universe may be instant or have no time, or may just be a calculation that happens. Like, let's say if it's on a computer or a mainframe or something. Or to the person that's in reality viewing it through firsthand, it's an eternal reality. So, like, let's say you're playing a game called Hustle Castle, or one of these turn-based games where you're like, calculate the battle was instant, you see the winner. But to those characters who just fought the battle, it was an actual long turn-based battle that was calculated out. So, if that's the case, infinity, which would literally be infinity to a creature viewing the first person reality, could actually just be a split second to an outside observer who's creating a system. And I'm not saying that's what the universe is, I'm just giving examples. Or in terms of when you get deeper into scientists, then you could realize that heaven and the certain constructs could be real, because to a computer, certain things are possible. But in the real reality, we don't know. We are still speculating on what we believe to be true. There's an episode on a cartoon called Rick and Morty where in their religion, an alien warrior came up to them and said, I have to be slaughtered. But disclaimer, this is a cartoon. Do not do anything like this. Uh, an alien warrior came up to Rick and Morty and was like, I need to be killed by a master warrior in order to receive eternal bliss. It's a part of their courage hero religion or something like that. So they went to a restaurant first to eat, and he chose Rick because Rick was like the most brutal warrior in the universe, I guess. So then Rick's like, I got to use the bathroom. Rick goes to use the bathroom, and Morty goes, hey, guy, we don't even know if heaven and hell is real on earth. Are you sure you want to do this, man? You could escape, live a long life. You don't know if it's real. Have you ever seen your heaven or hell? And the dude's like, oh, my God, you're right. You might be right. So Rick comes back to the table. The alien gets up and goes, I want to live. I want to live. Oh, God. He runs outside and gets hit by a car. Well, after he gets hit by the car, you see all these demons come up from the ground and grab him. And he's like, oh, God, it's real. Oh, God, it's real. Why did I listen to you? And Morty's like, oh, my God, no. What did I do? What did I do? And Rick's in the background like, I guess it was real. Food for thought. And so, it's just, I like to hear different ideas, and I like to see a lot of different things to understand and try to help me get a grasp on reality and what we're actually doing. So, like I said, that's why I can have conversations and debates with religious people, but I'm not going to disprove their religion. And I'm not even going to try to do that, especially anymore the older I get, because you might tear down one pillar, not realizing that might be the support beam to the house. And then the whole mansion comes down and that person starts to go do psychotic things. You never know. It's not your job, so to speak. Or maybe you think it is your job and you learn a life lesson after trying to revert somebody. I don't know. So, another aspect of the universe, I believe the universe is self perpetual. I just don't understand why, and I'm gonna explain why. There might be more science into this that I'm skipping, but from my knowledge, all elements can be ripped apart at some point in time or through some matter. Even iron. Iron doesn't decay on its own from what we know of the observable universe so far. We've only been smart for about 300 years. I don't want to I'm just giving you what history has told me in the history books. So we don't truly know what's out there, but black holes can rip matter apart. Certain novas, stars can actually make gold when they nova. I just recently learned that a couple of years ago. So there's a lot of different things we're learning. And so I believe that this is a known fact. This is how stars are made. Molecular hydrogen is one of the most basic elements. And what it does in the freezing cold of space, it begins to lump together like anything when it's cold. Like when things, they turn to solids when they get cold. Well, it starts to lump together, but it's still a gas. What's happening is then it combusts and it starts to do fusion. And the gravity from it keeps it in basically a circle. It's a whole, that you're getting into a whole physical thing after that, physics. So, and then it begins to create more stars and then it emits energy, which creates higher level energy like helium and carbon and oxygen. It fuses those elements until, from our knowledge, iron. But I guess neutron stars can go much deeper than that. We don't know what's truly in neutron stars yet. I mean, neutron, but we don't know what's truly going on yet. We're learning more and more as we go. So, I love science, and also science can get on my nerves sometimes. It's that balance. I like to talk about balance a lot. Creating a healthy balance to make sure you're able to maneuver through life and keep going. I can think about the universe all day long, but if it gets into my working or my chores or my life, then it has to be cut out, sort of speak. Psychologically, I have to balance myself. And so, that to me, that's the essence of life. We haven't been taught that a lot of times. We're taught extremes like happy eternal forever evers and do whatever you want, or super disciplined, bad, 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 jail, prison. You're not humans, from what I observe in humanity. So, um, I pray for Ukraine. I pray for Taiwan. I pray for Palestinians, although I'm not going to be one of those people that just go, I jump on a side. I know how the Arabic world is. I know what some of their practices are, and it is disgusting, but they do not deserve to die because of it. I don't know what's going on. Israel, you all are basically doing the same thing that happened. Well, I'm not going to say Israel, the Jewish people community came from Europe in that type of situation, and now they're doing it to Palestinians, so I don't understand. Anyways, so if anybody would like to talk about things, I'm open in my comments. If you start attacking or talking negative, I'll probably respond, but in a way that's going to be sarcastic or something. So I just trying to get like minds together. We can talk about things, learn and grow, and get to understand. And one thing about me, if you haven't seen my other videos, I do not, if you're religious, I do not do eternal punishments. It's just not part of my parameters. No, I'm not a robot, but I feel like I have a philosophy. And certain people could argue, they could say they were dead for 2 seconds and were resuscitated or something. I'm not, whatever. You have never died before, so you don't know what it's like to die. You don't know what happens after we're dead. And to me, from my basic knowledge, from what I do know, there was an eternal point of us not being here in the first place, which was nothingness. We didn't feel, hurt, anything. And so I believe that's what happens once we go. I believe it's people say this phrase a lot of times, and actually like this. They say we are the universe observing itself. And technically that's true because our chemical makeup is literally atoms, carbons, carbon-based rings. I believe it's nitrogen, carbon, sugars, and all type of stuff. I'd have to really look up. But, our DNA is atomic molecular material, which comes from stars. And as I've said before, I believe stars are self-perpetual. They create themselves with hydrogen. So Um, just enjoy your lives and try not to argue with people. Look for meaningful debates. I read somewhere that the more meaningful conversations we have, the longer we live. I don't know the correlation. Maybe it's just we get better feelings, the certain right chemicals pump, and we just feel better. You ever like doing something and you get like that feeling? It's like, oh my God, ooh, that that good feeling or whatever. So I don't know. Enjoy and be healthy.